Naruto, with glowing Sharingan eyes, watched Konoha burn. But how did this happen? The village hero, the kid who dreamed of being Hokage, now watched everything in ruins with a sadistic smile. How did Naruto Uzumaki's life reach this breaking point? It all started like any other day in Konoha, with the sun blazing down on the streets and the smell of fresh ramen in the air. Naruto was training in his usual spot, sweaty and with his shirt torn again. He hammered those training dummies fiercely, imagining each blow as a real challenge. His friends were already great heroes, and he felt the weight of not being on the same level, and it hurt. A sharp pang of frustration squeezed his chest because it felt like his path to becoming Hokage was stalled. He needed something more, a power no one expected. Kakashi-sensei appeared, late as always, and found him slumped on the ground, exhausted. Kakashi's gaze was serious. He saw the anguish in his student. "Naruto, you have immense inner strength, but there are secrets that can change everything," Kakashi said, and a cold breeze swept by. The shinobi world hid terrible things. That night, Naruto went to the village library to research forgotten jutsu and found an ancient scroll. It was strange. It had seals he'd never seen before and smelled of old earth. Curiosity overpowered his caution, and he slowly opened the scroll. The words began to glow with a dark purple, calling to him. And right there, in the middle of the silent library, a shadowy figure emerged from thin air, with eyes that seemed like holes in the universe, and the darkness was just beginning. The figure materialized before Naruto with an aura that sucked the light, its empty eyes fixed on the boy, and the library's silence grew even heavier. "You seek power, boy Uzumaki," the voice whispered, like dry ancient sand whispering in his ear, cold and old. "But the world refuses to give you what you deserve, doesn't it?" Naruto felt a shiver down his spine and took a step back. He drew a kunai, but his hands trembled, because this presence was something he'd never faced. "They promise to acknowledge you, but they still see you as the village's freak," the voice continued, hitting straight at Naruto's old wounds. "You're alone on this journey, again, Naruto." Those words hit home, and Naruto felt the old poison of loneliness reignite. He knew what the being offered was dangerous, but the promise of strength was almost irresistible, and the true price was yet to be revealed. "I can give you power no Hokage ever dreamed of," the being proposed, and the darkness around it pulsed. "A power that will make everyone revere you, and make your enemies tremble with fear." Naruto clenched his fists, because the idea of being the strongest was too tempting. But he asked, "What do you want in return? And who are you anyway?" "The lament of the betrayed," the figure replied, and it felt as if time itself stood still around them. "And what I want, boy, is to see you fulfill your true potential, not the potential Konoha expects." The temptation was massive, and Naruto thought of Sasuke, Sakura, Kakashi, and how they were always ahead. He felt a pang of insecurity, and his thirst for power grew, because the being's voice was very convincing. He slowly reached out towards the scroll that pulsed with a purple light, and a cold energy surged through his body. Naruto was about to accept the path that would take him away from Konoha forever, and this was just the beginning. Naruto touched the scroll, and a sharp pain shot through his arm, but it was a pain that promised power, and he didn't flinch. The purple light exploded, engulfing his body, and he felt a cold, powerful energy fusing within him. The shadowy being's eyes gleamed with malicious satisfaction, because the pact was sealed. A new vision filled Naruto's mind. He saw Konoha's secrets that no one dared speak of, and realized the truth was far darker than it seemed. He now possessed the gift of seeing the true face of things, and this would change everything forever. In the following days, Naruto felt the being's presence, a voice in his head that guided him and urged him to delve deeper into his new powers. He trained in secret, away from the village's gaze, feeling stronger and more different each day. One day, a mission to rescue captured ninjas went terribly wrong, and Naruto saw his comrades in mortal danger. With no escape, he used his new power, a shadow jutsu that destroyed everything around him, but saved the lives at risk, and the consequences would be dire. He returned to Konoha expecting recognition, but what he received was a cold reprimand from Tsunade and the elders, because the jutsu was forbidden and far too dangerous. They isolated him, ignored him, and treated him as an imminent threat to the village. The betrayal hurt more than any punch, and the harsh words echoed in his mind, because he had given his blood for them. The village he swore to protect now saw him as a monster, and he felt bitterness invade his heart and corrode his soul. "I warned you, Naruto," the voice whispered in his mind, soft but full of poison. "They will use you and then discard you when they don't understand you, because you are different. You are greater than them." The shadowy figure was absolutely right. Rage and pain were a catalyst, and Naruto felt the massive purpose the being offered him now made perfect sense. He was no longer the boy seeking acceptance, because his destiny was now different. It was the path of darkness. He looked at the Hokage statues and no longer saw heroes, but rather men who blinded themselves with their own rules and failed to see the truth. Konoha's sun was dying for him, and a new shadow was born in that moment. Naruto left the village under the cloak of night, with the scroll hidden and the shadowy voice as his only guide, and the promise of unparalleled power led him to a future Konoha would never be able to imagine. The cold night of the Forest of Death swallowed Naruto, and he felt the scroll pulsing in his backpack, the voice in his head whispering directions. There was no regret in his eyes, only a dark thirst for power. He walked for days, avoiding villages and cities, because the voice guided him to a hidden place. The instructions were clear, and with each step, the boy from Konoha died a little more, and a new being took shape. They arrived at a poorly lit underground complex, with the smell of chemicals and danger in the air. The voice scoffed, saying that there he would find the true master for his new journey of power. Naruto entered, and Orochimaru's slender figure emerged from the shadows. His snake-like eyes focused on him. Orochimaru smiled. He sensed the boy's dense chakra and raw potential, and the power of the Kyuubi. "So you finally arrived, Naruto Uzumaki," Orochimaru hissed, his voice like a sharp razor in his ear. "The voice that guides you promised much, but do you have what it takes to endure what's coming?" The training began immediately. Brutal, insane, and merciless. Orochimaru forced him to use the Kyuubi, provoking his rage with every failure, and Naruto felt like a caged animal. He screamed, and the red chakra boiled within him, exploding in waves of destruction. Naruto felt pain and power mixing, and he channeled all his frustration and hatred against the test dummies, destroying everything. Orochimaru didn't want a passive Jinchuriki, but a living weapon of war. He taught Naruto to mold the chakra of rage into dark, piercing jutsu, with attacks that seemed like shadows come to life. Naruto learned to use the Kyuubi's cloak with control, but with an even greater fury, and his mind focused solely on annihilation. He was a storm of red chakra and purple shadows, indestructible. His hair darkened, and his eyes took on a deeper, almost red hue. He felt the transformation. The inner voice whispered, "You are no longer the Naruto of Konoha. You are Kuro." Kuro, that was his new name, the name of someone who renounced everything and wielded a power that would terrorize the world. He was darkness itself, and the shadow of Konoha covered him. But a new invitation arrived, a scroll with the symbol of red clouds, and it was a chance to spread his power in a way no one expected. The Akatsuki wanted him in its ranks, and true chaos was about to begin. Kuro accepted the scroll and felt the Akatsuki's power calling. He joined them in a remote hideout, and the vibe was heavy, with cold stares and few words. There were Pain, Konan, and Itachi, with their dark cloaks and rings, and their presence was terrifying. Kuro felt he was among equals now, but the price for that was far too high. The first mission was clear: intercept a Konoha convoy transporting an S-rank scroll. It was a chance to prove his worth, and he knew he might find old faces there. His loyalty would be tested in a brutal way. They traveled under the cloak of night, with Kuro leading the way, using his new tracking abilities. He felt Konoha's energy approaching, and no nostalgia surfaced within him. In the middle of a dense forest, the Konoha convoy appeared, and among the ninjas were Kiba, Shino, and Hinata, with Akamaru. Their eyes widened upon seeing Kuro, and the silence was deafening in that moment. "Naruto?" Hinata whispered, but Kuro didn't hear. He leaped, and his purple shadows materialized, attacking with deadly speed. Kiba screamed, trying to defend against the assault. Kiba and Shino tried to react, but the attacks were different, darker, and full of hatred. They couldn't understand how Naruto could be there, with those empty eyes full of fury. "Naruto, stop this," Shino pleaded, but Kuro didn't even flinch. He used a dark Rasengan, and the impact sent Kiba flying, destroying trees and the ground. There was no remorse in his gaze, because he was going to show them he was Kuro. He grabbed the scroll from the convoy, and Konoha's ninjas were stunned and wounded. Kuro gestured to Pain. The mission was complete, but what he would do with his old friends would be the true test of his loyalty. He looked at his fallen former comrades and felt a frightening coldness in his chest. The name Naruto seemed distant, a faint memory, and the Akatsuki's darkness consumed him completely. He was Kuro, and now he belonged there. Back at the hideout, Pain looked at him with silent approval, and Konan offered a small smile. Kuro had passed the test, and his place in the Akatsuki was guaranteed. A new and greater threat was being planned for Konoha. Kuro, with a cold smile, tore through Killer Beast chakra, feeling the inner beast scream as he captured it. Hatred burned in Kuro's eyes, but how did the boy who dreamed of being Hokage become the very personification of death for a Jinchuriki? At the hideout, the Akatsuki began to mold Kuro into a weapon of absolute power, and Pain put him to train with Itachi, a master of cruelty and pure strategy. Itachi saw in Kuro a distorted reflection of himself, a raw, unrestrained power, and taught him tactics to annihilate without mercy, because the next mission would be the hunt for a Jinchuriki. Kuro's first hunt was for a minor Jinchuriki, hidden in the sand villages, and he used his dark Rasengan to tear through the village's defenses effortlessly. He felt nothing upon seeing the fear in his enemy's eyes, only the cold satisfaction of dominance, and each victory distanced him further from a past he swore to forget forever. But the Akatsuki's path would lead him to reunions that would test his new loyalty, and Konoha would send its best to stop him. Unaware of what awaited them around the next bend, On a message interception mission, Kakashi and Guy emerged like ghosts in the forest, and the shock was massive, because they saw Kuro use the Sharingan in combat. Kakashi tried to appeal to the old Naruto, but Kuro responded with a sadistic smile and unleashed a shadow jutsu so potent it made the ground tremble, showing there was no turning back. He left Kakashi and Guy wounded, but alive, as a warning, and the voice in his mind whispered, "They felt your power, but they haven't tasted your true fury yet, Kuro." The Akatsuki was planning its next great strike, a direct assault on one of the most powerful tailed beasts, and Kuro knew this would be his chance to show everyone the future of Pain. The Akatsuki gathered, and Pain revealed the grand plan for the last Biju, sealed in Konoha. The voice in Kuro whispered, "Your true throne awaits, Kuro, and it will be built on the ashes of everything you hated." Itachi watched Kuro with his Sharingan, and the tension was palpable. The moment of truth had arrived, and Konoha's destruction was just the beginning of a new world order. The march to Konoha began under a gray sky, with the Akatsuki like a cloud of death. Kuro smelled the familiar scent of the village approaching, and a calculated coldness filled his being. Konoha guards spotted the Akatsuki, and the alarm echoed through the village, but it was too late. Kuro unleashed a massive shadow jutsu, carving a path for the assault. The battle erupted at the walls, and Konoha's ninjas fought desperately, but the Akatsuki's power was unmatched. Then Team 7 appeared, ready for the final fight. Sakura and Sasuke stared at Kuro, and the shock froze their bodies. "Naruto, what have you done?" Sakura cried, but her voice was merely an echo to Kuro, who smiled coldly. Kakashi stepped forward, his Sharingan activated. "Naruto, there's still time," he said, but Kuro was no longer his student. He was the shadow, and the battle began with an overwhelming fury. The dark Rasengan collided with the Chidori, and the impact ripped the ground apart, shattering houses and trees. Kuro used the Kyuubi's power, a red cloak covering his body, and his Sharingan eyes gleamed with a deadly light. Konoha burned under the combined assault of the Kyuubi's power and the Sharingan, and flames devoured everything. Kuro watched the village in ruins, a sadistic smile spreading across his lips, and the prophecy was fulfilled in that instant. Team 7 lay fallen, defeated but not dead. Kuro had fulfilled the pact, and Konoha was just the first step for a world transformed by darkness, and the Akatsuki reigned. The sun hid behind the smoke, and Kuro's new world held no light. He was no longer a hero, but a dark god, the Akatsuki's Kage. Tesla doesn't hide secrets from anyone, and neither do I. If you don't hit that like button and subscribe right now, his next experiment is going to be on your electricity bill, pal.